Welcome to On the Job with PORAC, your go-to place for public safety and officer rights, giving you the news you need to know and discussing the issues that matter.
Hi, and welcome to On the Job with PORAC. I'm Brian Marvel, president of PORAC. Alongside of me is PORAC Vice President Damon Kurtz. Today we're joined with Randy Perry from Aaron Reed & Associates and PORAC's advocate for many, many, many years. We appreciate all the work that you do for us at the state capitol. And today's episode is going to be the election recap that happened on March 3rd. I think the most pressing race for us, I guess, in the state is the Los Angeles District Attorney's race. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. If you weren't aware, hopefully you were. We've been sending out a bunch of emails in regards to that. You know, PORAC created a independent expenditure account. We were trying to get our fellow colleagues and member associations, along with individual members and the community members that support Jackie Lacey. There were several independent expenditure committees in support of Jackie Lacey. I know our colleagues, our independent colleagues down there, all did one. And I wanted to talk a little bit more specifically about the one that we had done. We'd reached out to the other groups to make sure that we were coordinating our efforts and making sure that we weren't overlapping it. The reason this race, I think, is so critical, and I know Randy and Damon can jump in on this. You can look at San Francisco when George Gascon, and we call him the con man up here, was the DA of San Francisco and the author of Prop 47. And if you see all of the petty crime, the quality of life crimes that are going unpunished, especially in San Francisco, you can realize this is not a person you want to be district attorney, especially if you're a victim of one of those types of crimes. I mean, it's so bad in San Francisco, and I heard that the app is no longer available because Snapchat actually sued the guy. But in San Francisco, they created an app for human feces, and it was called Snap Crap. So you could take a picture of human feces and send it to the city, and the city's spending millions of dollars trying to clean that up. But unfortunately, that app's no longer available. But I thought it was a great name, Snap Crap. But it's unfortunate because anybody who has seen San Francisco, 15, even 20 years ago, it was a great place to go. But unfortunately, due to Prop 47 and the leadership of the con man, San Francisco has really turned into a crappy place, pun intended, to go visit. There's needles everywhere. There's homeless people just camping everywhere. Businesses are probably fed up with having to deal with this. So to have him now come back to LA and want to lead the largest district attorney's office in the state, and I believe the nation, I don't think California can afford that. I mean, we're dealing with a coronavirus issue that's starting to spread in the state of California. And this guy would just exasperate those types of things by not even doing anything with the homeless. So we've brought our expert in, Randy, to talk a little bit about it, and comments from Damon about the LADA's race. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I can tell you that PORAC stepped up big in that race. The goal was to try and get Jackie Lacey at 50% plus one. As you know, local races, if you win 50% plus one, you win outright and there is no runoff. So that was the goal of all the law enforcement community in that area. PORAC stepped up immediately, contributed $200,000 right up front, and then reached out to their associations. A couple of other outside associations, I know the California Association Highway Patrolmen came in and contributed as well. We put together about $250,000 just for about a 6-week program prior to March 3rd. We did radio, digital. Our goal was to do social media and allow ALADS, PPL, some of the other groups down there to do TV and the like. We did 122,000 live phone calls, text messages. We inundated the community. But more importantly, we saw some polling that showed that what Jackie Lacey had done in her first 4 years was impactful to the immigrant community, especially Latino community. So we targeted most of our program towards that community. And I'm really looking forward to the analysis or the analytics coming out of the primary, because I want to see the impact of the vote, of the Latino vote in this race, because I think we impacted it greatly.
Yeah, and then I know Jackie's campaign, her motto is justice for all. And she really has been a district attorney who has provided justice for everybody, whereas the con man, he's just going to be pro-criminal. And I don't think LA wants that. I think the results are showing that. With Jackie over 50% right now. Fingers crossed. Hope everybody's praying that, the ballots break her way so this race is over, because, that'll ultimately save a variety of people millions of dollars for the November race. So I think our campaign has been really successful. I think that I agree with you, getting the analytics back and seeing the demographics of the people that voted and how we were able to assist her campaign and getting her across the finish line.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it does show up. I mean, it's an interesting dynamic that goes on in the Bay Area where these quality of life issues, they seem to be coming to the forefront, yet they continue to vote in people that bring policies that go the opposite direction for these quality of life issues. Just the petty theft, the homelessness, lack of a better term, the sanitary conditions of a city that was once a gem for the state of California. And now I don't tell anybody to go there. And it's concerning what's going on there, just from the quality of life perspective, but also on the political side of things. And, for the law enforcement folks that have to operate on the other side of that bridge, we feel for them. And we don't need that type of policy to move to LA. We don't think that's going to be a good thing for California, and definitely won't be good for LA. And we think Jackie's the one we need to keep in there, obviously. So,
yeah, well, in this race, as Prop 13 and other races we saw, we hear in the press that the far left, Black Lives Matter and ACLU and all of them are growing, and that's what California is about and the impact of that. However, we keep seeing at the ballot box that, and that group, by the way, I like to reference them as the vocal minority. And it shows, because at the ballot box, people keep coming out. And when you see the impact of the vote, it's not the far left. It's not the socialist movement that Bernie is claiming, is a reform, a national reform nationwide. It's not happening. And in California, if you don't see that, then around the country that the impact won't be the same. People speak at the ballot box.
Right.
They don't need to go out and call press conferences and rally. And in the end, they speak at the ballot box.
Yeah, I think the majority of California is more moderate. I know we're depicted as being far left, the left coast, if you will. And obviously compared to some of the other areas, like say in the Midwest, we are. But I think a majority of people who are just living their lives, going to work every day, tend to be a little more moderate on most issues. And that's how they vote, is more moderate. They're not looking for the extremes on the left or right. I think the bigger issues, there's a lot of those folks are somewhat ambivalent to things and maybe don't vote at all. And that's a huge issue, obviously, for our state. And that's why we continue to have some of these policies come out, because the folks that really need to be, speaking on the behalf of California, the working folks sometimes aren't taking the time to actually cast their vote.
And I think that's important with our IE moving forward. If this does go into a runoff, that we're really going to have to press our members to pitch in and get out the vote, whether that's helping us phone bank, whether that's talking to community members, even your own family, and making sure that they get out there, especially in the LA area, and vote for Jackie. This is a critically important race being watched at the national level. And I think if we can push back on this, especially here in California, I definitely think it sends a signal nationally that, these types of district attorneys are not what people want. Everybody wants a district attorney that's going to be fair. And if you're a victim of a crime, it's nice to know that the district attorney is going to be on your side and make sure that you get the justice you deserve, and that it's not all about the criminal and making sure that the criminal goes free because they didn't get a Twinkie in the morning when they were a kid, or they didn't get some hug at some point in their life that turned them into a heinous criminal. So I think it's vitally important that all of our members really focus and help us get Jackie across the finish line. So we could probably spend hours talking about this race, but there's a lot of other races we want to talk about throughout the state.
Hey, Brian, a quick shout out to Grassroots Lab. They ran the IE campaign for PORAC and Highway Patrol and others who contributed, local associations. Mike Madrid and Rob Karinke and his team, they did a great job. So I just want to say thanks to them.
Yep, absolutely. We were great to bring them on board and work with them. And if this does go past March, we'll be sitting down with them and strategizing our game plan for November. And obviously a big component of that's going to be fundraising. I know we like to say that, money doesn't make the politics go round, but the reality is you need all the money you can. We clearly saw that with some very large donors out of the Bay Area who donated to the con mans. Some were $1 million. I know Bloomberg just dropped out of the race. I wish I could get a fraction of the $500 million he spent to run for president for this race, because it would definitely have made a dramatic difference. But let's go to some of the state races. In the California State Assembly, we came out in support of Megan Daly, and she's going to be in the top 2.
Yeah, Megan took over in a special election when her husband moved to the Senate. She decided to run. We supported her in the special and then just supported her again, and she won pretty handily. So it will be a top 2 race, but she's running against a Democrat, and that is not a Democrat part of the state. She ran against a very wealthy, self-funded doctor who spent over $400,000 in the last 6 weeks of his own money, and she beat him handily. So she's going to be safe. She'll be raising money from now on to give to other caucus members.
Yeah, no doubt. The other big race was Jim Cooper. He really ran on the keep a cop in the Capitol. When I've talked to the membership and when I talk around the United States, I always try to push people that have worked in public safety to run for elected office, because it helps to have a voice in the elected body. The legislatures around, whether it's Congress or the state senates. I think it's vitally important that we have cops actually in elected office who can talk about their experiences of working on the streets, what it's like to be a police officer, and anything we can do to help Jim. Which we did. We contributed to an independent expenditure account, and I think he won pretty handily in his race too.
Jim won by
10. I was just going to say, it's unfortunate that we don't have more public safety officials running for office. We have a unique perspective that most don't ever get, and it's something that's lacking a lot of times with our electeds. Is we get to see our communities, all walks of life. We go into their homes. We see the struggles, whether what part of town you live in, what economic background you are. We get to see all of that, and I think we really know what the issues are, because we see it firsthand at 2:00 in the morning or whatever that may be. And I think we can have a better perspective sometimes as public safety than some folks that really have been shielded or only live one side of the life, and they're kind of one-sided on their issues. I think we'd be a little more well-rounded.
This race was interesting because SEIU put up a candidate, African-American woman, to run against an incumbent. My question was, how would the speaker allow that? Normally, the speaker, who isn't responsible for the entire caucus, would go to someone like an SEIU, putting up somebody against one of his members and incumbents and saying, "What are you doing?" and slapping their hand. And really, in the old days, basically they would not get a single bill through that year. Their package, their legislative package would be killed. He trounced SEIU's candidate by over 10,000 votes. So
I think the dynamics are a little bit different at the Capitol now. It's almost like if you're related to public safety, they sort of give you lip service and they sort of gaff you off. Especially when it's coming to, running candidates and stuff, because we saw that, especially on the use of force bill, some of the major unions that were in support of that, which we've worked collaboratively with in the past. And, I think one of the issues that we need the elephant in the room is when there's another pension bill coming forward and what that discussion is going to look forward to.
Because they're going to be coming to PORAC for a lot of money and the like. And we're just going to have to, in politics, you don't forget. You don't necessarily have to take action and all the people's react to people, but you should never forget.
Yeah, I think the environment right now, and that anti-public safety sentiment is a product of the vocal minority that we talked about earlier, right? It's very loud. And the news media is part of that. The news media is really tied on to that, right? And tries to exacerbate this narrative that, statistically is false.
Well, it sells papers.
But it sells papers, right? It bleeds it, whatever it is.
Leads it
bleeds.
Leads
It bleeds,
right?
It bleeds, yeah.
It's backwards.
so-
If it bleeds, it leads.
There you go.
But we go back, But we go back to that in the polls show it. The support for law enforcement's out there. It is still in the 80 percentile, somewhere in there. The majority of folks are more moderate, and at some point, when they show up at the ballot box, these folks that are, pushing this agenda that is really the vocal minorities agenda, I think they're going to be they're going to have an awakening.
Yeah, definitely.
So you want to go through a few of these races just quickly?
Yeah, let's Tom Lackey. He's another cop in the Capitol.
Retired highway patrolman.
Yep.
He was hoping to face off again against ex-assembly member Steve Fox. Steve Fox is a local attorney. He won, I think in 2012, he ran and took that seat. And in 2014, Tom Lackey ran against him and took it for the Republicans. Steve Fox ran against him in 2016, and Lackey trounced him. So I was speaking with the assembly member, 2 weeks ago or so, and he was really hoping he's going to get to run against Steve Fox. He has some baggage, we'll just say that.
Yeah.
And he got his wish.
Yeah. Tom's a fantastic guy. He's working really hard at the Capitol for public safety, not only for law enforcement, but for our communities. It just, the pendulum has swung so much in this state, and hopefully people are starting to wake up. I think Prop 47 and 57 were oversteps, and I know there's going to be a November ballot measure. The retail theft is it's off the hook. So it's great to have Tom and Jim up at the Capitol working hard for public safety for all our communities. One of the other bigger races is Assembly District 59. Efren Martinez running against Assembly Member Reggie Jones-Sawyer, who's the chair of public safety. PORAC was the only public safety group that endorsed him, and he's on top right now.
Yeah, Reggie is the chair of public safety, as he said, and has not been very open to law enforcement in the last couple of years. But more importantly, I know that you guys recently met with him. I know that your concern was that not that just every super ultra progressive bill gets out, or even anti-cop bills get out, but that it's how you're treated, how law enforcement's treated when they go in and testify. I mean, it's almost an abuse.
It's been very disrespectful in both the Senate and the Assembly committees. We kind of joke around about it's the anti-public safety committees,
both of them,
because we don't get the respect we go in there. And it's
yeah.
So on just on that race, to close on it, like we don't know yet if Efren's going to stay in the lead, but it doesn't matter. Both of them made top two,
right?
And Reggie knows
absolutely
that this is going to be a bloodbath. Yep. One final piece about that is that is a heavily Latino district, and Reggie is African American. The Latinos and African American caucuses have battled in the past. Literally in Inland Empire and Riverside area, they went in and took out a African-American sitting member and put in a Latino. So I'm curious to see if the Latino caucus is going to weigh in on this come November, because they could pick up another caucus member. So everybody's going to be taking a look at the two caucuses and see what happens here.
Well, this will be interesting because you had talked earlier about the speaker not jumping in Jim Cooper's race, but I wonder now what's he going to do for AD 59?
I mean, he's one of the Latino caucus members, so we'll see what happens.
We'll see.
One you skipped over there was 57, which was the Calderon bill. This is Sylvia Rubio, who is the third sister, I think there's another sister actually, and a brother. We have a sitting Senator, Susan Rubio, a sitting Assembly member, Blanca Rubio, and then a third sister had just run for a seat that was being vacated by Ian Calderon, who you may have heard of that name as well. Ian Calderon is a son of Chuck Calderon, who was an Assembly member and a senator, and then his brother ran and was an Assembly member, Ron Calderon, and a senator. And then their other brother, Tom, was an Assembly member and then ran statewide. Well, as you may or may not know, Tom Calderon and Ron Calderon were both indicted and did prison time. And so Ian Calderon stepped into that seat and took it. And Ian has actually done a very good job. He's, very straightforward, very bright, and has worked hard. But he announced that he was going to step down because he wanted to spend more time with his family down in L.A. as a very young family. So in that race, Ian's stepmother decided she was stepping in, Lisa Calderon, to run for the seat. And then we had Sylvia Rubio step up, and they went head-to-head. So the two families battled. And because there's only one Republican in this seat, you knew the Republican was going to take the number one spot. So Sylvia and Lisa Calderon were battling for the second spot. Right now, Lisa Calderon, as of this morning, is up about 1,000 votes. So that's a tough move. But there are a lot of uncounted ballots.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll be watching that race pretty closely because we did endorse Sylvia Rubio in that race. I want to close it up with a congressional race, Congressional District 50. We actually endorsed Brian Jones. Unfortunately, he didn't make it into the runoff. But most importantly, there was a former San Diego City Council member by the name of Carl DeMaio. If you've heard me speak about anything pension related, I always bring his name up along with Chuck Reed and Morlock down out of Orange County. It was good to see that based on the numbers, and they're not finally tallied, I think, but I think Carl is out of the race. I think that all unions and anybody that supports defined benefit plans need to make sure Carl DeMaio, Chuck Reed, and Morlock never get another elected office going forward, because ultimately gives them a platform to not only to try to take away these benefits, to eliminate them, for retirees and actives. So that was good to see that. As much as we would have liked to have seen Brian Jones move on to Congress, we'll continue to work with him here in Sacramento. He's been a strong ally of ours, always calls us and talks to us, always looking for new ideas to make the communities that we serve safe. So as much as we were disappointed in that, the upside for us is that we get to continue to work with them here in Sacramento. Well, I'm going to wrap it up unless you have any additional. Nothing? All right. This will be the first of probably another one. And also we're probably going to do a looking at some of the legislative bills that we're supporting and aren't supporting, and giving you an update on that. So I want to thank you for joining us on this latest episode of On the Job with PORAC. We hope you enjoyed it. We'd love to hear your ideas for upcoming episodes. Join us on all social media platforms and be sure to tag us with your suggestions. Go to PORAC.org, PORAC.org, to learn more about California's largest law enforcement organization, representing over 75,000 public safety members. Make sure to check out our archived monthly podcasts on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, and wherever available. Lastly, we extend a thank you to all our PORAC members and our nation's law enforcement. Be safe and have a great day.
That's it for this episode. Make sure you tune in next time as we discuss the issues that matter.